Hello everyone. I hope you guys are having a great time here at IWCON 2023. And in this talk, we'll be basically going through everything about source code review for bug bounty hunters, and we'll go through what and why of source code review, how you can leverage source code review as a bug bounty hunter, and how you can get started into it, and lots and lots of stuffs. We'll discuss about CV reversing as well, and more stuffs in this presentation. So, before we get started, I am Ananda Dhakal. I'm from Nepal, and I've been doing bug bounty for over 5 years, around 5.5 years. And I'm also the brand ambassador of HackerOne for Nepal. And you can find me on Twitter or X at Dhakal_Ananda. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, what is source code review? That will be the first question of the talk, right? And yeah, that's not much of a deal for us to answer, because source code review is basically the act of finding bugs by looking into the code. In this session, we'll be talking about security bugs only. There are lots of bugs you can find through source code review, like performance bugs and stuff like that as well. But for the sake of this talk, we're only focusing on security bugs. And in our definition, source code review is the act of finding security bugs by just looking at the source code. You read the code, you find the security issue, and so on and so forth. So why source code review? There are lots of reasons on why you should learn source code review, and we'll go through the first one, and that is detailed understanding of the technology stack. So first and foremost, when doing code review, you'll have to work with a lot of technology stacks, lots and lots of frameworks, lots and lots of databases, lots and lots of programming languages, and you'll have to get your hands dirty on a lot of these things like Java, Python, JavaScript, and frameworks like Django, Spring, MySQL, Express, right? And databases like PostgreSQL, MySQL, MariaDB, MongoDB, and more and more. So working with these directly will increase your horizon of knowledge. So yeah, so let's say you're just doing a code review of a Java based application, right? So you'll have to work with everything, like the databases that the application is using. You'll have to work with the even the cloud environment that the application is using, and so on and so forth. So doing code review will definitely help you understand these technologies better, which will help you become a better hacker in general. So let's take an example. If you are presented with this error page in your pen testing or bug bounty engagement, what would you test? So would you try to hit an XSS here, uh, or would you try to look for some hidden parameters, or would you rather just brute force the get endpoints and call it a day? So yeah, if you thought of this as answer, yeah, this is the right answer. But that's not everything there is to it. So yeah, if you've worked with express.js before, yeah, so if you don't know about this, this error is generated by express.js. And if you've worked with it before, you'll note that only brute forcing the get endpoints is not everything you can do, right? So express.js routes in point, and there's a possibility of having post request, post endpoints, or delete endpoints being routed, but without any get endpoint as well. So in this example, you can see that there was no get endpoint that was found by FFUF, but if you look at the post endpoint, yeah, we've got an hit in one of the endpoints called exec, right? So yeah, this is one of the basic example. If we go into it further, we can see that sending a post request in that host gives us a 400 bad request error and asks us to provide an ID parameter. And if we provide the ID parameter, boom, we have the user data available to us. And if you just brute force the get endpoints, right, and just called it a day, you would not have been able to find this issue. And these are the small things that you can get better by doing code review, by having a detailed understanding of the technology stack. So another good thing that you can gain by learning code review is that you will have a lot of knowledge of lesser known vulnerability classes. For an instance, insecurity serialization, type juggling, cryptographic issues, overflows and underflows as well. While these bugs can be found in black box engagement, the probability of finding one is a lot higher in source code review. For an example, it would take you weeks to find a insecurity serialization in black box approach, but it's just like one source of code away for the bug in white box testing. So yeah, it will help you provide a lot of knowledge on lesser known bug classes, a lot of knowledge on core level vulnerabilities instead of all the high level vulnerabilities that you find day to day in your bug bounty or pen testing career. Last but not least, the reason for learning code review is to stand out from the rest of the crowd. So yeah, it is code review is not explored much, and there are so few people doing it. So if you can master this skill, you'll be able to stand out from the rest of the crowd and do something extra in the field. So now that we know what is code review, why you should learn code review, let's get into how you can monetize code review as a bug bounty hunter. First and foremost, it's obvious you can account bug bounty programs with open source scope. There are lots and lots of programs that offer open source scope, that offer GitHub repositories in their scope for bug bounties, and yeah, you can pick up any of them and just do some code review, find some cool bugs, and get some cool bugs. Right. So yeah, there is a lot of competition in black box testing, especially in recon and stuff like that. But in code review, there is generally so less competition, and you'll be definitely able to find bugs and earn some money as well. And another way you can monetize is find 0 days to hack an application. Let's take an example. This is the page, welcome to Stripey, that I came across, like that you might come across in your recon, like doing some subdomain enumeration. And yeah, so what would you do in this case? Like if it were me, I would definitely go and look for the software, right? And if I can get the software, I would try to find the bug in that software instead of just trying default credential in the email and password field and calling it a day. So yeah, companies don't build everything from scratch. They use open source, they use enterprise softwares, they use a lot of different stacks, right? So yeah, you can set up those stacks and try to find 0 days in those applications to basically find bug in your bug bounty target. So in this case, Strapi is an open source framework, Node.js based frameworks, and yeah, you could set it up and try to find a bug in Strapi, and this will result in your bug bounty target, right? So now that you've found a 0 day, let's take an example. You found a 0 day in Strapi. Now what you would do is farm it on all the programs. So yeah, so there are some ethical concerns that might come while finding, reporting 0 days and farming them, but yeah, that's out of scope for the talk. Some programs accept 0 days and yen days, and some don't, and it all depends on programs. But most of them do. So yeah, you can definitely try it out. I've done this a couple of times and I had a pretty good results as well. Now we're basically farming all the 0 days that we found. So the other way to monetize code review is we don't go and find 0 days, but we utilize those already found by others. So we basically farm the CVs and yen days and reverse them. And yeah, if we can get the POC, we can look for all the vulnerables, instance being used by the bug bounty programs, and report it to their bug bounty programs, and hopefully get some rewards as well. So there is a bonus pathway as well. You can try out some vulnerability researching as well. It is basically finding 0 days on enterprise softwares or even open source as well. And in this field, the box range from low level binary to high level web as well. And you can report issues to brokers and get some bounties from them as well. And hopefully, like HackerOne live hacking events, you can go to pawn to on events and stuff like those as well. You can look into it. We'll not be diving too deep into this bonus pathway. So yeah, now that you know what code review is, why you should do code review, and how you can make some bugs with code review, how you can utilize it in your day-to-day bug bounty hunting journey or pen testing or stuff like that. Now we need to know how you can get started into it, what you should learn, and how you can how you can dive into it and start doing code review yourself as well. So first and foremost, just go and learn a programming language. To read the code, to review the code, you need to be able to read code, right? To read the code, you need to be able to write some basic code as well. Like you don't need to build another Facebook or build a Twitter clone, but yeah, having a general idea of syntaxes and basic data type structures, OOPs, functions, loop, right? Having knowledge of those stuffs definitely will help you be able to read the code and understand the code. And after you've got the basic of learning a programming language, now you need to create a application, web application or an API. You can build it from scratch or you can use some frameworks as well, but I definitely recommend using the framework or the language that you've learned to create an application, because most of the almost all the developers use frameworks nowadays because of their simplicity, and you'll be able to get the developer's perspective, like basically think like a developer to act the developer, right? So yeah, you definitely, I definitely recommend using framework of the language that you learn, and use the MVC design architecture, because that's what everybody does these days while developing an application. And a bonus thing that I recommend doing is learning local or remote debugging in your application. So this will play a huge role in your in while auditing some big applications. Like you will need to be able to step through the code, set breakpoints, and work through the different parts of code. And yeah, learning local and remote debugging in the application that you've created will definitely help you in the long run. Now that you've gotten the prerequisites done, it's finally time to get started into it and dive into it. Now, circle of life. We now get back to DVWA, back where it all started, right? So, but this time it will be a little bit different. Instead of firing random payloads, we'll do the code review of DBWA based challenges. So, if you didn't know, DBWA offers white box solutions as well. And yeah, you can on the bottom right section, you can see the view source, which will provide you the code. And instead of just entering the payload in the submit button, we'll review the code, we'll analyze the issue, analyze how the issue came to be, and basically try to find the bug through white box method instead of the black box method. So yeah, but please make sure not to request a CV for the bugs that you find in DBWA, because it's obvious, right? So yeah, someone did it back in August, and a CV was actually assigned, but later on revoked. But yeah, please do not request for a CV in bugs in DBWA. um Moving on, another way to actually get started is do some white box ctf challenges. We won't be looking for some insane cryptographic challenge here. We'll just look for challenges that provide us with the source code, and basically we review the code and we try to find the vulnerability in white box way. So yeah, there are lots of CTFs that provide you with the source code to go through, and yeah, definitely look for them and try to solve them. It will help you gain knowledge immensely. And if you've got some bucks to spare, I definitely recommend Pentester Lab and Hack the Box Web Challenges. Pentester Lab is the number one that I recommend, because they've got over 100 challenges that you can solve. And yeah, you can just go through them, and there are lots of CVs, passive also done by sniff that you can go through. So yeah, the another paid resources that I can advise you to get is at the box web challenges. There are some really cool white box challenges out there, like that provide you with the source code. You can definitely go and check them out to solve some challenges. I was able to learn a lot of things from hack the box as well. So yeah, if you've got some bucks to spare, definitely check these paid resources out as well. So enough with the learning and learning stuffs. Now it's finally time to get and dive into the real world, because this is where you learn the most, right? So yeah, in the real world, we do not start with WordPress core. We start with WordPress plugins. We start small. We start with less code to review and try to find bug in less known WordPress plugins. And yeah, there are lots and lots of open source WordPress plugins out there that you can just set up your WordPress locally and get these plugins, download these plugins, and yeah, just try to find bugs there, right? And it doesn't even have to be complete white box review the code method, right? You can just do a mixture of white box and black box as well. And yeah, definitely start with WordPress plugins. And yeah, you don't have to do this for free. There is a company called patchstack that rewards you for finding bugs in WordPress plugins as well. Definitely to check them out as well. And I think if I remember correctly, recently even WordFence has started rewarding hackers for finding bugs in WordPress plugins. Definitely to check them out if you're reporting the bugs in the plugins. And securing open source software, just picking out some random GitHub repositories and trying to audit the code, trying to find the bugs in those repositories is also a good way to learn and dive into the real world. And you don't have to do this for free as well. There is a company called Hunter that rewards you for finding bugs in these repos as well. And now that we're into the real world, it's a good idea to get yourself familiar with some automated tools as well. There are tools like SimGrip and CodeQL that you can play around with and get some basic idea and use it in your code review workflow as well. And yeah, so this is one of the best thing that I really love doing in the real world, like just running the exploits locally. So this is one of the pre-auth RC that was made public by Asset Node. What you do when you come across such blocks is that you set up your instance locally and you try to follow the article and try to reproduce the vulnerability yourself as well, and look into the code as well and try to understand the root cause. This will definitely help you gain better understanding of the real world applications as well. And finally, this is the best and the most fun thing I really love to do. It's reversing the CVEs. I've already mentioned it previously, but yeah, we're basically looking for the CVs published 0 days found by someone and fixed by the company, and we're just grabbing them. We're doing some patch diffing, hopefully if we have the code access, and trying to find the vulnerability with the limited information we have. Try to find the find the you know find the POC for the issues that are not available out there in the public. So yeah, this is another thing that you can do into the while getting your hands started in the real world. So I have an example of the CB that I reversed back in August. I've already written a blog post about it after my talk in ThreadCon, but yeah, let's get started into it. So this is a CV 2023-26045 Node BB code execution vulnerability, and the method that we did to get the POC was patch diffing. So one day came across this article that said Node BB forum software had a remote code execution vulnerability, and like it was a really serious issue with 10.0 CVSS score, uh, which which we can see here with a 10.0 out of 10.0, part traversal and code execution via prototype pollution. So yeah, this really seemed interesting, and I decided to look into it. The impact section mentioned that due to the use of object destructuring assignment, right, combining object destructuring assignment with part traversal lead to local JavaScript file execution. So this is really interesting, especially because object destructuring assignment was completely new topic to me. I had never heard about it before. So Yeah, after a look, after a quick googling and researching it, I found that object destructuring assignment is basically assigning variables with the element of the arrays or object. For an example, in this example you can see that there is an array called a comma b, and the value is 10 and 20. So basically the value is assigned to the value of the array. One array is assigned to the another array with individual elements. So yeah, basically there was object destructuring assignment, and if a triple dot was being used, the rest of the value would be assigned to the like to the variable that has the dots, right? So in this example, you can see that we have a b and triple dot rest, and everything else is being assigned to rest, right? So in the case of functions, in the case of objects, this is how it's being used. You can see that var1 is displaying hello, and rest is displaying an object with value of var2 and var3. So yeah, now that we know what object destructuring assignment is, let's look at what the paths has to offer us. So this is the first fix that was done by NodeBB. They were basically validating types. It had to be either profile, post, or uploads. If not, there would be an error message thrown to the users. So interesting. So we now know that type is one of the things that we need to focus while analyzing this CVE. So if we look at the code, we can see that at line 451, child process is being called straight up with the type value, which we do not have control right now, but we'll look into it later. So yeah, a child process is being called, and the file is being executed with the value of type, right? So if we can control the type variable, we can basically execute any file of our choice. So yeah, with this information, let's move on. If we look at another patch, we can see that triple dot is being removed from the from the from in the new version. So they are, instead of triple dot data, they are using UID data.uid. So we now know that this had got things to do with object destructuring assignment, right? So we'll need to look into the data variable as well. Now if we look at the do export, right, this is what the full function looks like. We can see that the data, the triple dot data is being passed to api.users.generate export, the function that we looked previously. And yeah, so if we can control this data, if we somehow can play with it, we'll be able to basically tamper with the type variable, and with us tampering the type variable, we'll be able to execute any JavaScript file of our choice. So we know that this is a WebSocket request from this function, because the do export function is the one responsible for sending us to the sink, and it is being passed as a socket request. So yeah, this is what the flowchart looks like for this issue. A user request user.export profile function, and it is being passed to the, actually we do not request function, but we request user.export profile in our WebSocket request, and it passes down to the function socket user.export profile with our data variable. It then passes to do export function with our data variable, and it then passes to api.users.generate export, which is the sink of the vulnerability. So let's take a look how this happens in the practically, right? So this is what a WebSocket request looks like. To execute the vulnerable code path, you can see that user.export profile is being curled, and with the data, the UID2 part, that is the data variable, that is the data value that we traced through earlier. And yeah, so if we do set a breakpoint and look at the request, we can see that the type is profile. It is being automatically assigned and being sent, like we can see it from our breakpoint and local variables, right? So yeah, if we send this request, this is our tempered request, user.export profile with UID2, and type set to change type, right? So we're basically adding a parameter, type parameter, and sending the request. And due to the object distinct string assignment, the triple dot data, this type variable is being used instead of the default that was set by the application. So yeah, if we send this request, we can see that the type is changed to change type, right? So yeah, we have access to change or manipulate the type variable. Now we'll basically be able to send a request to any path. Like, you can see that we got an error of export iPhone change type.js not found, because obviously the file does not exist, so we get this error. And yeah, if we create a evil.js file in the server root, and send a request like this, traversing path, and requesting evil.js, we'll basically be able to execute that path. It gave us console.log act by Dhakal Ananda, right? So yeah, this is how I was able to reproduce the issue. And one question might be, how do I upload the JS file? Now, I haven't fully exploited the issue, but there are lots of file sharing options available. Hopefully, you'll be able to upload a file and just basically execute it through that WebSocket request. You can dive into it deeper. So yeah, this was the demo of reversing CVEs, and how you can learn and earn. Even though I was not able to find any vulnerable instance in any of the bug bounty programs for this specific software, this is a general idea of how you can get a CV with minimal information, minimal to no public information, and work around it and find get the POC and farm it on the bug bounty programs to learn and earn as well. So yeah, this is it for the talk. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, please do let me know.
So, hey Ananda,
Hey,
that was a wonderful talk, man. A lot of
yeah, thank you.
posted quite a lot of questions. I'll just bring uh, like questions in a sort of order on stage, and feel free to respond to them.
Yeah,
If
yeah, sure, sure, sure.
this question is by Veshraj Himire, I'm just posting the question on stage. So the question is, in what ways has learning source code review enhanced the effectiveness of your black box testing?
Yeah, so I gave an example previously, right, regarding that Node.js, like regarding the Express.js bug. Like I would not only limit myself to get requests, and I would go one step further and look for post delete put request. That is one of the many examples that I was able to was I was able to get the change, like my in my thinking. And yeah, those are the small things that add up to it, and differentiate you from an average hacker to a better hacker. So yeah, that is one of the example that enhanced my black box testing methodology. Like whenever I look into an application, like I I I spend some time understanding how it is built, how it came to be, right? Like what sort of frameworks they used. And I I changed my hunting style based on that.
Mm.
It really helps me save my time and save my effort as well, like focus on the important stuffs, and instead of just doing some random stuffs, like hoping for something to happen, boom and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
makes a lot of
that's the question.
yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you talked about this, I suddenly remember Franz Rosen's talk. I mean, not a talk. There was this podcast. Rainer Rader and Franz Rosen, they all did at CBPT recently, and then Franz also mentioned that whenever he targets like an application, he'll try to first sort of understand how the application would be built. If there's a certain feature, he'd sort of write code for himself to understand how this functionality would have been built so that he can try to reverse it and then hunt it properly. That's a very
Yeah,
interesting approach. I mean, not a lot of people do that. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. Just
Yeah,
going to
absolutely.
mark that as answered. And the next question, this is by Trikash K. And he's asking if there is like any certain framework that you'd recommend us to start. Um, Even I had this sort of same question. Is there like over your years of hunting, is there like a certain tech stack that you've seen which is widely popular or something that you'd recommend us
Yeah,
to learn
so
first?
if I were to like learn from scratch right away, I would definitely go for JavaScript. I would go for Express.js and build an application or API. Personally, I did build a API in Express.js. So
Hmm.
the reason for that is because JavaScript is just taking over the development market, right? Like
Yeah.
everything is being built in JavaScript, ranging from native desktop applications to web to like basically everything, front end,
Right.
back end, and everything. So yeah, I would definitely go for Node.js because it's really popular and it's sort of easy to learn as well. And yeah,
Hmm.
it will definitely help you. Yeah, if you want some challenge, you can go for Java though.
Ah, okay, okay. Cool, cool. Got it. Thank you. So, I mean, like by challenge, do you mean that it's like tricky in nature or?
Yeah, like huge Java code bases are really intimidating. So personally, I'm kind of afraid of Java. So yeah, someone really wanting the challenge can definitely go for it.
But yeah, true that. But there's also like a lot of classes of bugs in Java too, right? I mean, you can do serialization,
Yeah,
etc. I mean, I'm not very well versed, but I've just seen like a lot
yeah,
of things people do.
yeah.
Cool.
Most of the bugs, like at the end of the day, are on Java. So yeah,
Mm.
that's a good thing as well, right? Like most of the enterprise application I've seen are built in Java, almost like 90%, I would say. So yeah,
Right, right.
but as a beginner, I don't recommend Java. You can level up from maybe Python or JavaScript
Uh-huh.
to Java later on. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah, makes sense. Marking this as answer and bringing in the next question. So Sachin asks, how do you perform source code review for low-code application development platforms? These platforms have their own custom code base, and then I find this as a huge or a big challenge.
Yeah, so personally, I haven't really performed code review on low level applications and platforms. I mostly done on web applications and high level stuffs. But yeah, if they have their own custom code base, I'm sure they should have their own documentations as well. Some sort of way that users can understand it. And yeah, I recommend going through them. Going through it will be a lot of pain to read lots and lots of docs, but yeah, I think that is the only way out for such code bases and such applications.
Neat. Yeah, I have this question. I wanted to ask this question, but yeah, thankfully somebody asked. So Muhammad asks, from your learning experience of source code review, what are the general pitfalls that you've observed?
I don't know. I'm not really sure if I have some pitfalls that I've observed, but yeah, sometimes we get too we get too deep into the rabbit hole and start doing
Mm.
some random stuff. So yeah, but as a general pitfalls, I don't think there are any pitfalls. I take everything as a learning opportunity. If I even if I spend days setting up some random softwares or setting up some random doing debugging on some random softwares, I take them as a learning opportunity. And like at the end of the day, there is something to learn from everything, right? So yeah, I would not say there are much of pitfalls, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a wonderful mindset that you have, and because you see a lot of people's they do massive recon, they do hunt on applications, etc., and then they say that they've won this much, that much over a period of time, but then you're spending out like a lot of time studying code, reviewing it, etc. So, and
Yeah, yes.
when you
So
mentioned
some of the
it's
times, yeah, some of the times it's even more about spending more time setting up software than
yeah,
actually doing code review. So yeah,
yeah,
these
yeah.
these are the things that you need to prepare yourself when getting
Mm,
into this field.
cool. That answered. And then, is JS the recommended language to learn today, considering the penetration and standing of the language today? I have experience in Python and C++, but I guess knowing to read JS will open a much bigger market.
Yeah, so personally, I don't think language itself is much of a big deal. Like, if you can do code review on Python, you will surely be able to do it on JavaScript as well. Right? Yeah, it's almost it's same as learning one programming language. Helps you like learn almost any programming language. So if you are an expert Python coder, you will be able to code in any language, right? So yeah,
Yes.
it's the same for code review as well. So there is no specific language requirements, but if you really want some specific languages, I would say yeah, it should be Java, JavaScript, and PHP as well, because
Mhm.
like almost all of the internet runs on it, right? So
Right.
yeah, but personally I don't think learning code review on a specific language is much of a thing to be concerned about.
Yeah, absolutely. Fully agreed with you on that. And even I believe the same, right? It's all about trying to understand the logic of what the code does, irrespective of what language
Yeah,
the uh, the thing is. And most of the times we try to identify these corner cases and these edge cases and try to break them. So yeah, it's all about the trying to understand the logic behind an
yeah,
application and be good to go.
absolutely, yeah.
Great. So next question is, how much time would you recommend spending on a target on average? Do you collaborate with other hackers on source code review?
So regarding time recommendation, I'm not sure if I can answer to that question because it depends, like how big of a target is, right? What and like the level of your skills as well. If you don't have much skills, then spending time alone won't do much good, right?
Mm,
So yeah, it absolutely depends on the level of code base, how big of a code base is, how small of a code base is. And yeah, there is no specific time. Sometimes I spend weeks or even months on a target, but sometimes I might just look into it and say meh, I won't look into it. Right? So yeah,
yeah,
I've collaborated with some hackers on source code review as well, and we had some successes as well.
great, great, fantastic. And I had a question myself also. Now with
Just
I'm just marking this as answer. And now with the trend with AI and all of these coming up, right? Uh, do you think that there's like a foreseeable future in which if you like pass a code stack, or for example, I mean ChatGPT does that, but it's a lot inaccurate. That's my personal opinion. But do you see AI doing source code review in a like a in like a way in which the topic itself gets deprecated, or how do you see that AI and source code review?
mm, so 5 years from now on, no. I'm not sure about maybe like the topic itself will never deprecate, right? Because
Hmm.
right now, like if we give some input to ChatGPT, like it's all bullshit. So no need to talk about it in current context. But I don't think the concept of source code review will go even in the next 10 years because like at the end of the day, it's all about human mind and the creativeness, right? So even if we feed even if we feed ChatGPT or some AI with genuine data, with genuine information, and real ways to like actually exploit those issues, it might be able to detect those low hanging fruits. For an example, just if we can find the bugs just by a simple search, maybe the bots will be able to find those, but they'll never be able to find the complex logical bugs that we human beings are finding, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, the complexness of code adds up to it. Like it might yeah, personally I don't think the concept will go away. Yeah, it will definitely clear up low hanging fruits. That's absolutely foreseeable, but I don't see AI taking over our jobs yet.
Cool, cool, wonderful. All right, I think we do not have any more questions. Most of them has been answered. Yeah, I think so. That brings us to the end of the session. Thank you, everybody, for posting wonderful questions. And once again, thank you so much, Anand, for giving us this wonderful talk.